Welcome to Quiet the Inner Critic Mindset Framework for Success. So, today I am going to teach you some core principles and things that are super important in creating your success and shifting your mindset to step into a place where you're capable and really able to allow yourself to develop into the amazing educator, professional, beauty, wellness professional that you are seeking to become. So, I come to you with over 30 years of salon ownership and beauty industry experience. And I wanted to share with you the mindset framework for success because I have realized that in shifting my own mindsets and helping shift the way of thinking of hundreds of my clients and employees and team members and colleagues, that the consensus is 80% of the results that we create come from the way we think, from the beliefs we have. So I'm going to be covering four pillars. The four pillars in the framework of Quiet the Inner Critic. This is my mindset framework for success, specifically for the beauty industry, even though anyone could use this, but I'm speaking to you, my amazing, phenomenal beauty professionals. So what I'm going to be teaching you is really how to quiet the inner critic. You know, that little voice in your head that always nudges you and maybe makes you feel not good enough, makes you doubt yourself, makes you feel like you are not good enough or at the level that you want to be, keeps you hidden, keeps you from taking the risk, keeps you from going to that next step to create the success you truly desire. So, the four pillars that we're going to cover in this webinar are personal growth, emotional intelligence, intuition, and feeling good enough. So these are things that no one ever talked to me about when I started in the beauty industry 38 years ago. And through a process of growing myself and investing and working with hundreds of clients, I have found that these four pillars are critical for you achieving the mindset for success, because that is the secret sauce to creating a life of abundance, joy, and wealth. So, without any further ado, let's get started. Please, if you have not done so already, head on over and download the workbook. That is an accompaniment which will help you take notes, reflect, and really deep dive in to what I'm sharing on this webinar. So I want to remind you guys, if you don't actually do the work and implement the exercises, it's like working out. If I want to tighten my arms, I have to do the reps and I really have to work on it every day. So remember, 10,000 hours to reach mastery. Now, mastery means you got it down pat. It has become a habit. Things take 21 days to change a habit, but it takes 10,000 hours to create mastery at anything we are doing. So this is a great opportunity for you to head on over, grab that workbook, download it if you haven't done so already, or get yourself another notebook to accompany your workbook, and let's get started. So number one, personal growth. What does that mean? When I first heard that word, I had no idea what they were talking about. So if be gentle with yourself. Anything that I share with you today, if it seems like it just fell out of the sky, it's totally new, you've never heard this before, approach this webinar with a really open mind and an open heart. As we go through this process, I'm going to ask you repeatedly to be really loving and kind to yourself. And for some of us, like me at one time, that felt really uncomfortable. But give yourself grace, meaning cut yourself a break, right? And focus on being loving and kind to yourself for anything that may feel uncomfortable during this webinar, because some of the things, depending on where you are in your journey, and there's no right or wrong, right? You're not right or wrong. There's no, no one's really trying to figure out who's where and what, because we're all at different places. So be open-minded, open-hearted, and loving and kind to yourself as we're working through this. So personal growth, what does that mean? So the definition of personal growth is the evolution of yourself, right? People, a lot of times, where I hear them say, oh, I want to become better or the best version of myself. Now, I want to just remind you, you were born perfect. You were born 100% enough. Now, the personal growth part is, what are you healing, changing, evolving, stepping up into, right? It is our own evolution. Personal growth and personal development means tapping into ourselves and releasing what no longer serves us, looking at new ways of believing and thinking and showing up, and investing in not staying the same or stuck in a way of thinking or behaving that no longer serves us. So personal development could mean me working on learning how to say no better, because maybe that habit is creating me discomfort, saying yes to people all the time. I'm giving you examples. Maybe personal development looks like starting to change your daily routine and adding a 10-minute walk, because you're finding that you're sitting around maybe doing destructive things or just kind of wasting time scrolling, and you feel like you may be putting on some weight or you just feel sluggish, right? Personal development and personal growth means putting your own needs and prioritizing your well-being. So this statement might come as a shock to you, but we are all born and meant to be happy. What? Right? When I heard that, I'm like, what? I'm meant to be happy? That's my birthright? I'm supposed to feel good. So again, if you've never heard this before, take it, put it down, and I want you to really try to assimilate it. So this is how you gauge in personal growth. It's how you feel. So when something feels good inside your intuition, inside your soul, inside your gut, whatever you want to call it, because whatever name you want to give it is totally fine. Your being, your energetic source, that feeling good enough is the barometer of where you're at and what you need to work on. So when I say work on things, that means changing habits, shifting beliefs, and a belief is simply a thought, and a thought can be changed. Okay, so that's personal growth. So strategies for fostering personal growth could be goal setting, right? Let's get clear on where we're looking to go. Where are we looking to go in our career? Where are we looking to go in our lives? What do we want to see different? What is something I can add value to myself? So here's an example of personal development. Every morning, these are things I've instilled into my life over the past 20 years of working on myself and really investing in my personal development. So changing my habits, right? I wake up, I go ahead for my beautiful cup of coffee because that makes me feel good. And then I will take quiet time to read something that's positive, uplifting, feed my soul. Maybe some positive affirmations, maybe a prayer, maybe a positive quote, whatever resonates with me and whatever resonates with you. So I only buy, me personally, healing, healthy, productive books, things that will actually make me feel better, right? I don't engage in negative, toxic, I don't watch the news, I don't watch TV. These are just my personal habits that I've changed. I'm just giving an example of what personal growth looks like. Removing things that don't make you feel good and adding things that do make you feel good, right? So then I journal. I will sit and do 5 things to be grateful for immediately. I just write 5 things. And then 5 things that I truly desire and want. And I keep those in a little journal right next to my, little coffee table next to my favorite chair. And that's my morning routine. Then maybe I'll go walk the dog, do some yoga, whatever that looks like. But personal growth means investing the time to change the habits, right? So when we look at personal growth and fostering personal growth, it means setting little goals, continuous learning, and taking time to self reflect. We have to self reflect and self assess. What am I feeling? What do I need today? And this is something that's really hard to do if you're not used to that. So, what am I feeling? And what do I need today? Okay. So, I want you to really tap into that. What are you feeling? And what do you need today? And I can assure you, this is my mission because this has been the missing link in so many salon professionals and beauty professionals globally, wellness professionals. We're leaving out the link of how we think and how we show up for ourselves and how we care for ourselves. Because when you're not 100% focused on evolving and growing you and nurturing you and taking care of you, you can only grow as much as you are working on yourself internally. So, personal growth also is, how can you positively impact your own career and your own success? So, personal growth means I had to invest in learning how to be a better leader, right? Early in my career as a hairdresser, I was a great stylist. I was really good at the technical part of it, and I was great at listening. I was great at doing the work, but I was not great at leading others. So, this caused tension in my life and in my business. So when I started to get self aware and leave my ego, which is the part of us that wants to constantly pull resistance, I started to realize that I needed to get support to increase my personal development, my personal growth as a leader, right? Or personal development, personal growth as a partner, as a mom. So there's many phases to this. You may need to heal old wounds or traumas, right? So I am not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, right? I am a certified healing practitioner. But what I'm sharing with you is if you have things that are really holding you back and roadblocks that are heavy, or you're feeling depressed, or you're feeling overwhelmed to a point where it's literally paralyzing you, you may need to marry personal development, like working with a life coach, with a therapist, because therapy works on healing the past core wounds, right? So we heal all that, extrapolate it, delete it, release it from our lives. And then a coach or a mentor can help you from where you are now moving forward. That is personal development. Personal development is reading great books, things that enlighten you, listening to podcasts, right? In the morning, too, before I hopped on this webinar, I listened to one of my favorite podcasts. I'm taking notes and it's adding value to my soul, to my business, to opening my mind to new ways of thinking and being. This is the core pillar of personal development. Now, why is this important in real life as you're growing and evolving in the beauty industry? Well, because you will find that if you're not working on yourself, you're going to be suppressing and capping the opportunities you have. You're going to be suppressing and capping the amount of wealth you can acquire because it all goes hand in hand. You will attract the wrong clients, or you'll have negative experiences coming into your day. Because what happens is what we think about, we bring about. Our energy attracts what we are. And I know this was hard for me to understand too in the beginning when I started my journey. I was like, what? How could that be? But dropping your ego at the door. So, ego is something that we need. It's in our survival mechanism as humans. We needed our ego to survive in the caveman days, right? So hear me out. This is a real simple way to understand it. But today, the ego is protecting us sometimes from things and dangers that don't really exist. So ego's here. So I turn around and say, thank you so much, ego, for trying to protect me. I am so grateful, but I need you to just be quiet right now. And then I turn to the side and I ask my inner guidance, which we're going to talk about that once we get to pillar number 3, which is intuition. But that brings me to number 2. Pillar number 2, emotional intelligence. Oh my God. What is emotional intelligence? So we are all born with the innate gift of emotional intelligence. No one has more or less than anyone else. We all are born with these beautiful gifts inside of us. This is the difference, how you harness your emotional intelligence, right? So, emotional intelligence is significance. The significance, and it's so important for service-based professionals like you and I, because we are interacting daily with people. If you're behind the chair as a hairstylist, you are in close proximity with people's energy, with their stress, with their vibration. So I'm just going to quick explanation. Vibration is scientific, right? Vibration means your energetic vibe. Now we're all energetic beings having a human experience, right? So we all have energy. It's science. When you are in close proximities with your client daily, you are a close reflection and feeling and exchanging energies. So by tapping into your emotional intelligence, which is simply put, being able to listen, assess, feel, and read the room, read the client, assess what their needs are, feel into it. So emotional intelligence is your capability to listen, keep quiet, and assess and read the room or read the client. Wow, how powerful is that? Did you even know you had this superpower? So let me dive a little deeper into this. And I'm just so passionate about sharing this, guys, because it has been a game changer in my career, in my life, and the career and lives of hundreds of beauty professionals globally. So now, the key components of emotional intelligence are self-awareness, meaning being in your own body, being aware of what you're feeling. Like, have you ever gotten like angry or something just set you off and you immediately felt like you disconnected out of your body? I always use the example, I'm showing my age here, but there used to be a cartoon that when the cartoon would get like scared or angry, it would get X's in its eyes. And I always think of that of disconnecting from our self-awareness, right? And this is a human trait, but we can actually harness it and control it. So, first is self awareness, tapping into and really being grounded. What am I feeling? What's going on with me right now? Number 2 is self regulation. Has anyone watching this webinar, have you ever experienced fear, anxiety, right? Overwhelm, freaking out? That is when you become unregulated. And it's not a negative thing. Again, it's a fight or flight response that we needed back in the dinosaur days to not get eaten by some lion or something, right? But today, When our nervous system is on overload, we are not regulated, meaning calm, feeling good. Again, goes back to you have a right, a birthright. You're supposed to feel good. You're not supposed to feel bad every day. Of course, there's going to be days you feel bad because life happens and things happen. But when we tap into our emotional intelligence, our higher self, that clear, powerful part of us that is the all knowing that can read the room, we can self regulate. Then it comes self regulate, could be here's one self regulation technique: deep breathing. You breathe in through the nose and breathe out through the nose. There's a million different techniques. I'm always happy to share more of these techniques. If you'd like to connect with me after the webinar, be my guest. I have tons of free access that you can get a lot of these techniques also that I share. So deep breathing, right? Deep breathing is a really powerful way to immediately regulate the nervous system. I know people that regulating the nervous system could be tapping their fingers, right? You take your thumb and tap it to this part, and that's an immediate way to stop anxiety, to stop a trigger of panic, because it is a way to self regulate your body, right? These are things I even taught my kids to do. How powerful is that? So, self regulation. Next, inside of emotional intelligence comes empathy. What does empathy mean? I can imagine how you feel. I have empathy for you. I can put myself in your shoes and be kind and loving and forgive you. And the biggest thing that a lot of us do, and I had to work through myself, and hundreds of my clients do too, having some empathy for ourselves. So, emotional intelligence is not just about giving to others, it's about giving to you. So, tap into that empathy. So, that doesn't mean you're feeling sorry for someone. Empathy means that you can step into where what they're feeling and meet them where they're at. No judgment. Because remember, guys, self judgment is self judgment. And last but not least, it's your social skills. So, emotional intelligence is connecting directly with someone. So, when I look at you, I'm looking at you on this webinar directly in your eyes. My soul is connecting with your soul. My being, my emotional intelligence is right with you. Can't you feel my energy and my love and my light and my goodness coming towards you? Sure, you can, because I am connecting with you with my heart. So social skills, especially today, are it's harder than ever because we have social media. We're being bombarded by millions of messages and overwhelm. Listen, I'm guilty. I could easily go down the rabbit hole on social media and totally go into that trance. I have to manage that too, right? Because we're all human. Remember, we're energetic beings having a human experience. So I have to be self-aware that I am like imposing and damaging my social skills. So instead of scrolling, I make sure I actually connect with people. So social skills mean listen when someone's talking to you, don't be so caught up worrying about what you're going to answer. Sit quietly, look at them, and really listen. And in the beauty business, this has been one of the $1 million secrets. I've owned 6 salons, guys. Bootstrapped them, opened my first salon at 19 years old, okay? Owned 11 salons. And this is what always set me apart and my team. We sit down with the client and we listen. We don't stand behind them when we're doing a consultation. We actually sit in front of them with a chair and we soften our body, right? It's our body motions, and we listen. We give them the courtesy. We give them the honor and the respect of truly listening. This changes the whole energy in your whole interaction with everyone. Now, if you're an educator watching this, I've been an educator in the vocational schools for cosmetology for over 22 years per diem, right? And I can tell you, this goes for student, this goes for technician, this goes for behind the chair, and this goes for educator. The moment you soften your body and you allow your emotional intelligence to lead and you actually lean in and listen to the client, to the student, to a team member, it will shift the energy and cut that butting heads. It'll cut that confrontational energy. It'll cut that not listening. It'll bring you back to grounded. And I promise you, your relationships, your business, your outcomes, your results will be better. Now, I know this is a lot I'm throwing out at you. I want you, as I go through this, slowly go through the workbook. And if you have to go back and rewatch parts of this webinar, be my guest. Take your time and focus on one nugget at a time. Remember, guys, you can't do all of this at once. It's going to overwhelm you. One piece at a time. So now we're going to move on to what are practical tips for improving your emotional intelligence? So one thing that is really powerful, and this works brilliantly, listening. Listen. I tell everyone, zip your lip and exercise and practice just listening, not interrupting, not thinking about what you're going to say next. Just release your shoulders, soften your body, and listen. Number two is mindfulness. So taking 5 seconds. I always tell everyone, count to 5 before you talk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's mindfulness. Taking a deep breath, taking a break, sitting before you go into a meeting or before you go into work or before a client comes in that might be a little stressful, or before you have an interaction with a student that, for some reason you feel like they're just angry or whatever it is or not aligned. Breathe. Remove yourself from where you are and take a deep breath. Breathing grounds you. Breathing stops anxiety. Breathing stops panic. Breathing realigns you. Breathing helps you with mindfulness, and it's free, and all of us can do it. So make sure you write your notes on breathing, right? And last but not least, in tapping into emotional intelligence is managing stress. So I want you to be really honest with yourself and assess, how much stress do I have in my life? How many things are out of my control? And how many things are in my control? So I want you to make a list. What stress do you have? What can you control and what can't you control? And the third one is, what do you think you can't control, but actually, if you change some of your habits, reactions, relationships, can you change? Okay. Like, again, guys, this all takes time to shift, but I guarantee you, if you invest in doing the personal development work, which is all of these factors, you will find yourself in such a better place, and your mindset will reflect that. If you see highly successful people, I want you to look around and be mindful. They are working on themselves. Anyone who's successful, happy, joyful, has good relationships, good marriages, great businesses, they have a lot of money, they have wealth. 99.9% of these people, I've done the research and I've been in the rooms, they're working on themselves. And that means changing your habits, beliefs, and how you show up. So number 3 is probably my most favorite topic, because intuition. So intuition is your decision-making, problem-solving GPS, okay? I want you to hear that again. Your problem-solving, decision-making GPS. Once again, your intuition lives within you, within your energetic being, right? It's not your brain. it's your whole energetic being. Now, regardless of what your beliefs are, this is all about energy. I'm talking energy. Energy and intuition is your sixth sense. We're all born with it. Some of us have it heightened and use it more often. So it's like the workout of the arm. Remember, it just comes easy. Answers come easy. It flows. You trust it. Some of us, we've quieted our intuition out of fear. Maybe as kids, a lot of times as kids, these are beliefs and thoughts that are imposed on us by others, not meaningful to stuff our intuition, but they were doing the best they could with what they knew how. So they told you to quiet down. That's ridiculous. What are you saying? But intuition is a scientific sixth sense. It is your inner knowing, your inner GPS. So I want you to reflect for a second. How many times in your life, think of some experiences that you've had, right? Where you had a feeling, you had this gut feeling that you couldn't describe and you didn't follow it because it sounded ridiculous or it was far out or just didn't make sense. And then you were like, oh my goodness, I should have listened to my gut. What happened? You didn't listen to your gut, and that the gut was the right answer. So we don't trust our intuition sometimes because we've been conditioned that it's woo-woo, or we've been conditioned that, well, how could that be true? It doesn't make sense. Or how could that be, right? So intuition is a decision-making, problem-solving GPS. And once again, we're all born with it. It's innately in us. We all have it, and you can actually cultivate it and use it in your daily interactions for success, for mindset for success. What I've seen in speaking to hundreds of salon professionals globally over the past 30 years is intuition helps them make better decisions and squash self-doubt because they don't second guess their intuition. Once again, intuition comes from a place of love. If you feel fear, that's your ego. So we need to tell ego, thank you so much for trying to protect me. Quiet down, little guy, go away. Thank you so much. Intuition is always not fear-based. Okay? You're driving down the street, you suddenly get a feeling like, oh, maybe I better go right today instead of left. Then you better go right instead of left. That's your inner GPS guiding you. Okay? So ways to cultivate and trust your intuition in professional settings is, again, being mindful, breathing, tapping into your inner knowing, listening, assessing. Is this fear-based or is this my gut talking? And one of the most powerful ways I've learned to listen to my intuition is that first instinct you get is usually your intuition. It's when we start to second guess. You ever take a test and the first choice was right and then you changed it and it was wrong? That's intuition. You know, again, you had a feeling and you didn't follow through. You met someone and you felt something was off. You knew this person was not a good fit for you and you took the client anyway. You intuitively felt something was off with, I don't know, this so-and-so person you met. They gave you like the chills. They kind of freaked you out. They kind of gave you the creeps. Turned out it all was true. So once again, never, ever dismiss what you feel. Honor your intuitive feelings. And again, it's like any other sense. The more you use it, the stronger it's going to get. A few exercises that you can do to fine tune and really listen to your intuition more, again, is breathing, spending time in nature, listening to healing alpha and beta music, meditating. You don't have to meditate sitting like a yogi, all curled up in a pretzel for hours. You can do mini meditations. There's tons of them on YouTube. There's tons of them actually on my podcast, the Maria Fontana Show. I have meditations you can download. It is a way to quiet the mind. If you've never meditated, you could do mini meditations where simply you just sit quietly for a minute with subliminal music on and you relax your energetic being. Okay. Again, guys, it takes time to change these habits. Now, how can intuition guide you in a service based business to make better choices and connect with clients on a deeper level? Well, because if you immediately already went through your emotional intelligence, you listened to what the client needed, you listened to what the student needed, you really connected, you intuitively know if certain things are a right choice. You intuitively know how to react. You intuitively know. Here's an example with a client. The other day, a client came in to one of my salons, and one of my team members said to me, Maria, after the consultation, I listened, I followed our protocol, and I intuitively knew she was not a good fit for our business because of A, B, and C. I could feel it. So I told her we were not a good fit for her for the goals she was trying to achieve where they weren't aligned. Turned out was a great decision because this client would have been a huge problem. This is just an example. So again, you have to trust your intuition. If something feels off, it is. If you feel something is not right, it probably is. So the more we listen, and again, intuition can guide you to make great decisions, make great connections, increase your wealth. This is all important. And intuition is your secret sauce that's free, and we all have it. So, tapping into intuition should never be dismissed when you are connecting with anyone because your intuition is always on the money. And remember, intuition is love based, never fear based. Okay, last but not least, guys, pillar 4, feeling good enough. I want to tell you a quick little story. I opened my first business at 19 as a hairdresser. I started at 17. I'm a product of vocational school, proud, wore this badge of honor. And I became a hairstylist because I had a passion for it. And I wanted a fast path to cash. I wanted to be my own boss. That was me. But what happened was my mom never really approved of it. Subliminally, she just didn't approve. She thought it wasn't a good enough thing. That imprint weighed on me for most of my career. My whole goal was I never felt good enough because of the beliefs someone else imposed on me. So this is going to bring me to beliefs, the stories. Whose story is it? So I took on my mom's story. She didn't mean to do it. Of course, I love my mom, but she imposed her story that maybe was imposed on her by someone else, that being a hairstylist was not good enough. Now, of course, that is a ridiculous statement, but in my subconscious mind, I carried that for a long time. So I became an overachiever. I became an overdoer, constantly trying to prove that that wasn't true. But it held me back in my soul. So I want you to do the exercise now. I want you to look at, where are you not feeling good enough? Write down, what are the things you're not feeling good enough about? What's the story behind not feeling good enough? And is that story true? And whose story was it? So can you see this? So I had a client the other day in my consulting business. She was a successful esthetician. She had 2 successful businesses, but this woman still does not feel good enough. She struggles with, what can I do more? What could I do better? Maybe when I reach the next income goal. She's already at 7 figures, and guess what? That's $1 million. She still doesn't feel good enough because she hasn't released the story. So we've been working together on her extrapolating the story. And guess what? It wasn't her story. It was a child's story. So our stories get imposed on us sometimes, of course, not intentionally most of the time, by our caregivers, our parents, our guardians, the people that surround us. and they're imprinted on us. And because we want to please the people we love, we carry those stories. But the truth is, guys, 9 times out of 10, those stories aren't ours and they're just not true. So releasing the story and accepting the truth will help your mindset for success step into a level that you have no idea you're even capable of. So I want you to explore. Explore right now. Ask yourself, what would feeling good enough feel like? Oh my goodness. What? Can you imagine? Oh, I remember where I learned this. Pete, I have a right to feel good enough. I am enough. I don't need to do anything else. I am perfect the way I am. So it really is an acceptance that you are enough. You were born enough. By developing ourselves, we're simply adding more light to the brilliance we already are. It doesn't mean that you're making yourself more enough because you are enough. Does this make sense? Are you guys picking up what I'm putting down? Awesome. So, some strategies for overcoming imposter syndrome and not feeling good enough. One of my most powerful exercises is the story exercise, meaning question when you now feel good enough. If before I got on this webinar today, okay, I felt like I wasn't good enough to show up, whatever that was. I'm making an example. I stopped and I said, but Maria, is what you're saying to yourself true? Is that true that you're not good enough to record this webinar and share the things that have changed your life and impact hundreds of thousands of people with your story and your knowledge and your brilliance? I was like, of course that's not true. Of course I'm enough. That's someone else's story. How dare you? Who do you think you are, right? These are the things that ruminate in our heads. But if you stop and ask yourself, is that true? Is this story true that I'm telling myself? Or is this someone else's nonsense story that I just was taught to believe? Instantly, it eradicates it. But you got to practice this. You got to practice this. So it goes back to, again, being self-aware, being connected, right? You guys follow me on this? Isn't this amazing? Isn't this powerful? I remember when I first started working on myself and learned these things, I was in utter shock. I could not believe that I didn't know this in my 40s, because I was like in my 40s when I started working on myself, guys. It wasn't like I wasn't 20. And I'm like, oh, I had no idea these things even existed. So how lucky are you that you are being exposed to this today? Okay, next, overcoming imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome means that, again, you don't feel good enough and you're afraid of what people are going to think. So I want you to focus on this. Don't share your good stuff with people who can't support you. Let me say that again. Don't share your good stuff with people who can't support you. What does that mean? It's really easy. Not everyone is at the level where they can support you. Here's an example. I was featured in Salon Today magazine. They asked me to write an article. They had been following my podcast, listening. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you get the idea. A dear friend introduced me to someone in Salon Today. They took a liking to me. They loved my work. They asked me to write an article. I couldn't share that good news with everyone, certain family members, certain friends. They're not in that place where they could actually be happy for me. So what I had to be strategic about, you share that good news with people who can actually support you. So my colleagues who are on the same level as me in mindset, with my husband who can support me, my kids, but not other people who are just not there yet. It doesn't mean that they're less than you. They're just not able to support you. Maybe family, maybe certain friends, maybe relatives. So be mindful that you have a circle of people, a group that can actually meet you where you're at and give you support. So one of the most important things I've learned is you can't share your good stuff with everyone. Be mindful who you share your good stuff with, because that's super important for you to overcome self-doubt. Because if you keep sharing, looking for approval, you're just going to get shot down because the same people who are wounded, not mentally healed, not working on themselves, they're just not capable. Here's an example. You're both here. This is your best friend from childhood. You're working on yourself. You're reading the books. You're up leveling your mindset. This is the personal development realm. They're the same. It doesn't mean they're less than you, and it doesn't mean you're better than them. But can you see eye to eye when it comes to personal growth or how you're evolving your career? So you have to just meet them where they're at and love them, but you can't expect to meet them for approval or permission. So this brings me to practice for feeling good enough and alleviating self-doubt. Give yourself some love. Be your own mama. Be your own cheerleader. Be your own best friend. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that you don't have anyone else in your circle, but it means that you have to give yourself permission. I had to learn that I couldn't look for approval from my mom, my sister, my brother, my uncle, anyone, my colleagues. I had to approve of myself. And when I approved of myself and gave myself permission, boom, all the doors of opportunity exploded. And this is possible for you too, regardless of where you are in your beauty career, regardless of what you're going through. If you're new, if you're an educator, if you're in a reinvention, if you're just in school hearing this for the first time, this is a game changer. Okay. So practicing self-compassion and embracing your own self-worth. Now, remember, guys, people say, oh, charge what you're worth. This is something I hear a lot on social, and it annoys me. And I'll tell you why. We all are worthy. And you have to really be, again, self-assessed and self-aware. Where am I in my own worth? And what does that really mean? So there isn't a scale of worthiness because we're all equally worthy. When it comes to pricing, that category is based on skill set and demand. So don't get confused by your worthiness and your pricing, okay? That's super important that you keep that in mind. And having self-compassion for yourself. So once again, loving yourself, giving yourself some grace. I always say this, give yourself some grace, meaning forgive yourself, love yourself, cut yourself a darn break. You are brilliant enough and a light. And you personally have to have compassion for yourself and love yourself enough to grow, because that is the secret to true success in any beauty, wellness, salon business. The inner game. I have colleagues too. I mean, 8-figure business owners, salon owners, spa owners. You ask anyone who's successful, they're going to say, Maria, you're right. It's 80% of your mindset and what goes on between these ears and what you believe and what you tell yourself, how you speak to yourself. So self-compassion is too. Be careful how you talk to yourself inside your own head. Stop the self-abuse. Put the invisible bat down that you're beating yourself up with. I want to thank every single one of you for taking the time today to watch this webinar, to work on yourself, to invest in yourself, and to truly step into the new framework, the new mindset for success framework, and quieting that inner critic so you can create the wealth, abundance, joy, and happiness and success that you deserve in this lifetime as a beauty or salon professional or wellness professional. I want you to take the time now to go through the workbook, rewatch this video if you'd like to, self-assess once again. And remember, you can connect with me and reach out to me with any questions and I will answer them. You can connect with me on social media at Maria Fontana Consulting, and I am here for you. I can't wait to get to know you better. I also offer a 10-minute get acquainted call if you'd like to connect with me, talk, and deep dive further into your personal growth and brilliance and creating a framework for a mindset of success. Sending you guys lots of love and light. Thank you so much for watching.